Hi, I'm Amy, and today we're going to be talking about what I wish people had told me about college when I was in high school. Because I think people told me a lot of things, but I was still taken aback or surprised by a lot of the stuff that happened. So I thought today I would just kind of sit in my room and chat to you guys about what I wish people had told me. Just a little disclaimer before we get rolling, a lot of things depend really heavily on what high school you went to and what college you go to. So I'm really just speaking from my personal experience. If you're listening to me say something and being like, what world does she live in? That's totally off. Then just let me know your experience in the comments, because I know that there's such a wide range. But this is just kind of pointers and advice I would have given to myself in high school, knowing what I do now as a junior in college. Okay, let's get started. So the number one thing that honestly kind of annoyed me a little, because everyone when I was in high school kept telling me that, hey, college will be easier in terms of workload. And I think part of that is because I went to like a pretty intense private high school, and so I would say that they did prepare us well, but I would still say that I would never go back to my high school and tell the current students there that college is going to be easier, because it was just so not true. I'm not saying that college is like a nightmare, but it's a very different type of work. High school is definitely not easy. You know, you're going to school so many hours in a day, getting up early, going through all your extracurriculars in the afternoon, and then you get home and then you work on homework until it's time to go to bed. Well, at least that's what I did, because I had no social life. But that's beside the point. College was intellectually a lot more challenging for me. I think in high school, you're kind of given the recipe and then you go apply it and perfect it. For example, in math class, they might teach you, this is how you use radians, and like you just go and do that 30 times in your homework. Spend 45 minutes on it, and that's the end of the story. A second thing is that in high school, your homework always has this feeling of urgency. Like you're given an assignment and you turn it in the next day or in 2 days when you have that class again. High school was kind of like a general trucking along, feeling like every day I had to be getting a bunch of stuff done, but none of it was too intellectually challenging, which brings me to college, where it gets different. So I am a STEM major in college, and if you're majoring in the humanities and writing a lot of essays, then you probably also have a different experience than me. But I'll just talk about my experience with P-sets in college. So P-sets, or problem sets is what they're short for. They're generally assigned and due every week or 2 weeks, and they generally take, it really depends on the class, but around, let's say, 5 to 15 hours each. So this is a really different pace than I was used to in high school. In high school, if a homework assignment, like one homework assignment for like the next class, was taking me more than an hour, I was like, chop chop, why is it taking so long? But in college, yeah, it's totally expected for me now to spend like 10 hours on a single assignment, because they're just that much more longer, and they're also a lot more intellectually stimulating. So if high school was just giving you the recipe and then you apply it, then college is kind of giving you the ingredients, this analogy, and then you kind of cook something up out of that. Like, it's a lot less hand-holdy. You have to definitely work together with your classmates a lot more and come up with the solutions. It's really not as straightforward, and it's kind of a different type of thinking than I was used to. I would say in high school I was spreading myself pretty thin. You're taking, 6, 7, 8 classes, really depends on the school you go to. And then you're also in, I was in probably 4 or 5 extracurriculars at any time because I was really extra. Yeah, so I was really spread thin. But in college it's different because you have maybe 3 or 4 classes that you're in, and you're also devoting your time to just like 1 or 2 major extracurriculars. Or I would say at least most people, once they get into their junior or senior year, have narrowed it down to that. So the amount of focus that you're giving to your work is different. Overall, even though in high school I felt really overwhelmed with the amount of work I had to do, in college it's definitely more work. So yeah, I don't want to scare you guys into thinking that college is going to be like nightmarish amounts of work, but you're going to be doing a different kind of work, and maybe for longer hours than you're used to focusing in high school on any one thing, and that your study strategies might have to change because of that. While we're still on the subject of academics and schoolwork, let's talk about not knowing your grade in classes. So in high school, you have little assignments all the time. Like you have homework assignments due every class or every week. You generally know what your grade is because what you see is what you get. But not in college because of this little thing called the curve. So, for example, in my computer science classes, it's really typical for midterms or tests to have an average in the 70s or even the 60s because they're designed to be hard and to stretch out the distribution in a class. Because if everyone's getting 90s, then you can't really tell who has mastered the material more than someone else. So yeah, what you see on the paper is not necessarily what you get. There's definitely been a lot of classes where on paper my grades look really not great and then the grade turned out fine, or vice versa when the grade seemed fine but the resulting grade was a bit lower than I thought it would be. And on top of there being a curve, you don't have as many assignments. Maybe the assignments are only due every 2 weeks, and then the teaching assistants take another 2 weeks to get your grade back to you. So by the time you start getting your first grades in the class, it's already like halfway through the semester. Yeah, this stressed me out a bit in my freshman year, but you kind of learn to get used to it and to just, you know, keep on trucking, and also paying less attention to the numerical grade and more in terms of where you fall relative to your classmates and how secure you're feeling in the material. But yeah, that's something to kind of look out for, at least at my school. It's really common to not have a very precise sense of what grade you're going to be getting in the class until after finals. And you don't even get your final grade back, as in the grade that you got on your final exam. You just see your overall grade in the class. I don't know. Just, yeah, you gotta learn to let go. Which is really hard for me because I was a bit of like this during high school, but now I'm all easy breezy. The next thing I wanted to talk about is pre-professionalism, because looking back, maybe I should have realized that this would be a thing, but in high school it was just so not on my mind, if that makes sense. You know, high school is very focused, at least for me and for my classmates, on getting into college. And so it should have come as no surprise that a lot of people in college are just focused on the next step as well, which is either getting a job in an industry or getting into grad school. And yeah, it should have made sense to me, but I don't know. My little high school self was really not thinking about these things. But on the other hand, in high school, we kind of do it in a roundabout way. Like you join newspaper club because you think it might look good on your application, or you join Model UN, you know? And I'm not advocating that you join clubs just because they'll look good on your resume. In fact, I think that's not a great way to go about high school, but I digress. So in college, there are actually pre-professional clubs that are directly aimed at giving you the network or the skills for whatever you want to do in the future. And that's another thing that I didn't really realize before I went to college, at least my college, is the big focus towards consulting, finance, and tech. You know, the stereotype of people going into college thinking, oh, I'm gonna major in my passion, and then everyone switches to economics. Okay, that was a bit too cynical. That's not what really happens, but I've definitely noticed a lot of funneling into these industries that, I don't know how to put it. They have high entry-level salaries, which is definitely a big draw for a lot of people. I mean, I totally get that. And also as a CS major, I understandably have looked into tech myself. Like, recruiting for these industries feels a bit reassuringly like the college application process in some ways. It's competitive, but there's a lot of structure and a lot of your friends are doing it. So I totally understand why someone who doesn't really know what they should do, they would be attracted to these high-paying jobs that give you a set of milestones to reach and like a familiar structure. So before coming to college, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what consulting was. But now, definitely, I think at my school, 30% of new graduates go into finance or consulting. But all this pre-professionalism leads me into my next point, which is that most people still don't know what they want to do, which is totally understandable. You know, half of us are teenagers in college, and half of us are barely not teenagers, so it makes sense. I guess this is a very American way of thinking about it, because I know in other countries, as soon as you get to university, you have to pick your path and stick with it. But in my college, for example, we didn't have to declare a major until the end of sophomore fall. So you got a lot of people who don't really know what they're doing in life, and that's totally understandable. I remember when I was younger than high school, like middle school or even elementary school, I looked at 20-year-olds and I thought, wow, they're adults. They have their life together. I can't even say it without cracking up. Yeah, I'm 20 now. No, I'm not an adult, but it's fine. I mean, I am an adult, but I'm also, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sure that feeling will probably stay with me for most of my life, if not all of it, that we're just figuring it out, because that's what life's about. So, if you're in high school and you think, like, oh no, I have to, like, pick my major and really get my life together in college, don't worry, because most people are still figuring it out. I know a lot of recent graduates who even completely changed industries after a couple years after graduating. So you totally don't have to have it figured out right now, but props if you do. Okay, related to the point that people probably don't have their like entire life path figured out in sophomore year, something that I would have told my high school self is that people aren't as experienced as you might assume they are. And what I mean by that is in terms of like alcohol or in terms of sexual experience, all that stuff. I think there have definitely been studies, I can't really quote off the top of my head, but I've read that teenagers definitely overestimate how much their peers are doing these sorts of things. And so if you're going into college and thinking, oh my god, is it gonna be like the movies where there are parties all the time and everyone knows what they're doing and I'm so weird, I've never even kissed anyone? Like, it's just not true. I think at a survey at my school, something like 50% of incoming freshmen had never drunk alcohol before. Or was it had never had sex? One of the two. So if you're feeling inexperienced, you're not alone. And you definitely don't have to feel like you're the odd one out for not having as much experience, because most likely a ton of your classmates are in the same boat as you. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, just take your own pace. These things are all totally your decision, when and if you decide to participate. Okay, let's continue my preaching a little bit more with my next point about feeling lonely at college. I don't know, something about the movies or the way people say it's like the best 4 years of your life or something. I mean, they said that about high school, but I strongly disagree. So take everything with a grain of salt, even what I'm saying. The next thing I wanted to talk about is just not having the time of your life, or feeling lonely or feeling sad at college. Like, at least for the first semester, I wish I could go back and tell myself, hey, don't put so much pressure on yourself to suddenly make your best friends in like the first 3 weeks of college, because that's just not really what happens. I would say I felt kind of lonely and like I didn't have really close friends, or maybe I had maybe one close friend for most of the first semester of my freshman year. And that's totally normal. Now when I talk to my good friends here as a junior and we reflect back on our freshman year, a lot of people say that, yeah, they felt like they weren't quite fitting in or they couldn't make close friends yet. And that's because it takes time. You know, you don't have to make it harder by feeling like you're behind schedule or something. So yeah, if I could go back and talk to my freshman fall self, I would just tell her not to worry, like good friends are coming, they're on the way, you're building the foundation for them. Okay, and on the subject of friends, I am on my last point, I think, and that is keeping in touch with friends from high school. What I would have told myself, maybe unexpectedly, is that don't feel like you're a bad person if you're not as good as friends with people from high school as you used to, because it's natural to not feel as close when you're separated by a lot of distance, or you don't have the same teachers and the same classes to joke about and talk about anymore. It honestly lets you see who your true friends from high school are, because I'm not saying that the people where you can just kind of joke around and relate to them about the specific situations that you're in, I'm not saying that they weren't real friends. I'm just saying that outside of the context of being in the same class together or the same sports team together, sometimes those friends just don't have enough tying them together anymore if you're not really vibing on a personality level. You know, sometimes you have those friends where you don't exactly reach out to them a lot. Let me know if you kind of get what I mean, where you have those friends where you banter or like hang out whenever you cross paths with them, but even in high school, I never would message them and ask like, how you doing on the weekend or something. It was just, you kind of talked whenever your paths crossed, and in high school that used to be a lot and you were great friends. But now you guys never really got in the habit of reaching out to each other, and so you know, you just have the memories of the friendship, but neither of you feel particularly compelled to reach out to each other and keep connecting, because it doesn't really feel genuine with some people. Yeah, I don't know if this makes sense at all. Maybe I'm explaining it really badly and I sound like I don't care about my friends, but it's not true. It's just that, you know, in different stages of life, you're only going to carry a few friends over. You're not going to carry everyone over. And that's a natural process. And finding those few friends where you have a lot more to talk about other than just the same teachers and the same classes and the same sports team is also a learning experience and really cool to see. Definitely keep in touch with the people that you love talking to, but don't feel compelled to kind of spread yourself too thin and like maintain a, oh hey, let's catch up basis with all your high school friends. maybe this is just me speaking from being an introvert or having a small network of close friends rather than a big network of casual friends. And if you do have those friends that you aren't in the habit of keeping in touch with in high school, but you know for sure that you want to keep them with you in high school, in college, then start that over the summer before getting to college. Okay, thanks for sticking with me through a really long chatty video. I haven't edited it. I don't know how long it's gonna be, but it seemed long to me. But I hope that you guys got something out of it. I tried to include everything that I would have told my high school self. So if you're in high school and you found this helpful, or you're in or out of college and you found this relatable, or even if you completely disagree with me, I hope we can have like a little discussion in the comments about it, and kind of just the way that we talk about the transition between high school and college, because I think there's more that I didn't touch on that we could kind of talk about. If you want to see more like me unloading my expertise upon you about college and high school, studying, productivity, I'm sure there's more on the way. So if you'd like to see that, please subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!